Perek Eliezer, Perek Chav Gimel. We're holding in the middle of the Perek. We sort of skip the story in the middle, and then we'll finish off that story. And then what is printed in most of our Perek Eliezer as the beginning of Perek Chav Daled, according to the Hager edition of Perek Eliezer, is really supposed to be the end of Perek Chav Gimel. And you'll see that it's, in a way, it's a connection to Perek Chav Gimel, and Perek Chav Daled is a completely different topic. So we're up to the words Matzah Noach. Basically, sometime after the story of the Mabul, we're going to talk about this story of Noach getting drunk and then getting castrated or whatever happened to him exactly. And we'll speak about the different sons of Noach, etc. Just interestingly, the Radak in Parshas Noach asks a question. He says, why in the world does the Torah tell us this story of Noach planting the vineyard and getting drunk? What's the point of it? So he says, there's two reasons why the Torah tells us this story. The first is like this. The first is, why later on in the Torah we're going to see that Canaan and his descendants are cursed. You're not supposed to, we're going to see by Avram Avinu that he made sure that his son didn't marry a Canaanite, and Rivka made sure that Yaakov didn't marry a Canaanite, etc. Right? So why is it that these people from Canaan are so bad and so evil? Where does that come from? That they're cursed and they're evil? Where do we see the sherish of that, the source of it? So therefore we're going to bring this story to show this is why Canaan got a certain curse from his father, from Hashem, etc. That's one point. And the other point is to warn a person the dangers of alcohol abuse. If a person gets drunk, then it messes up his brain, and he can't properly focus on what he's doing and what he's supposed to be doing, and he does things that are not necessarily things that he would be doing if he was in the right frame of mind. He says the first person who got drunk, Noach was the first person who got drunk. He ended up, exposing himself and not even realizing what he did to himself, right? So the Radak says that's why the Torah speaks about this story.
The question is, why did he get drunk to begin with?
So we'll see in a moment. Says the Medrash, Matzah Noach Gefen shegorisha v'yatza mi Gan Eden v'ashkeleiseha imah. Noach found a vineyard, a grapevine that grew or that was thrown out of Gan Eden and came out of Gan Eden, and it had already fully developed clusters with it. So what did Noach do? Not only perisaha v'achal. So he took from the fruits of that vine and he ate from it. And he liked it. He liked those grapes so much that he desired them in his heart. And then he planted a vineyard in the land. On that day that he planted the vineyard, the fruits blossomed and they came out and they were already ripe. It says the pasuk, it's a pasuk in Ishaya, that on the day that you planted it, that's when it sprouted. He drank from the wine from that vineyard, from that vine, and then he exposed himself in his tent. We'll get to the next part of the story in a few moments. But this is the first part of the story. So the obvious question is, why is there a grapevine coming out of Gan Eden that Noach found? Like, what's this grapevine coming from Gan Eden? Like, why did Hashem make a grapevine come out of Gan Eden and Noach found it? What happened over here? That's the opening question. So all the Mefarshim, the Zohar in a few places. By the way, Targum Yonasan also brings down this thing that the vine comes from Gan Eden. It's also in Targum Yonasan. The Zohar in a few places. And other Mekubalim, they all say the basic idea of this story was that after Hashem destroyed the world, so now we're starting anew. And he wants to give mankind a chance to go back on the chait of Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon, there's an opinion in the Gemara that the fruit that he ate from the Eitz Hadas was a gefen, was a grape. Or maybe the wine from the grape. So Hashem was giving mankind a chance to fix up the mistake that they did by the chait of Adam Rishon. So that's why Hashem brought this vine into the world from Gan Eden to give Noach a chance that maybe we'll fix up what Adam Rishon did wrong. But the problem is that he didn't. And as the Mekubalim say, that the Chet of Adam Rishon didn't have a tikkun in the world until Avram Avinu came about. But Noach wasn't the one to do it. He wasn't the one that was able to fix it. He was nichshal in the same way that Adam Rishon was nichshal. And we said the lashon over here in the Medrash is v'chamarei beliboy. He desired them in his heart, just like we find by Adam Rishon that they said that the eitz was nechmad lahaskil, that it was a desirable fruit. So just like Adam and Chava ate from the eitz hadas, so too Noach ate from this grape. And there's a lot of other parallels over here. The Medrash even the Radal even brings from the Rikanti, one of the early Mekubalim, who wrote a Pirush on Chumash, that when the Rikanti quotes this Pirkei Eliezer, so it adds an extra line that we don't have in it. It says, "Motel Noach gefen shegarshem mi Gan Eden." Noach found a grapevine that was sent forth from Gan Eden. Omer Kadosh Baruch Hu Noach. Hashem said to Noach, "Loi dai l'chol lilmoid me Adam Rishon sheloi garam lo el yayin." Isn't that enough for you to learn from Adam Rishon that what caused his downfall was wine or grape or whatever? So you should also put to your mind and realize that that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. But alas, that's what Noach did, and he drank from it, and he ended up exposing himself in his tent. Now, the next part of the story is.
You asked a question that, so what? It's in his tent. Let him be in his tent.
What?
And you expose yourself in public, that's a problem. When you expose yourself in private, what's the problem? What's the significance of him being in his own tent? That's where he should be exposed. Meaning, he was exposed the wrong way, but he could have just been getting undressed. He wasn't just getting undressed and getting into other clothes. But what was the significance that he's in his own?
I don't know. I remember one time when I was a bacher in the mirror, there was a certain guy. I remember who it is because every once in a while I bump into him and it's very embarrassing. This guy got very drunk. He came into the basement one night, late at night, not wearing proper clothing. So it's like.
Yeah, but that was the base medrash.
See, that was the base medrash. This is his how. Maybe the oil over here means his base medrash. I don't know. But even the oil, it means.
It doesn't need to be added to the story. Just he exposed himself.
Yeah, even that. There's a certain human being. You don't walk around in your house naked, right? Why? Nobody's around. So what's the problem?
There's big people in your house that makes medrash.
Well, fine. But I'm saying even in your house, you don't. That's not something that human beings do. You never have guests. You don't have. He has a bunch of kids, right? He didn't have guests. Everyone was dead. No, he has kids. He has a family. I hear what you're saying, but even if like technically it's not a problem, it just doesn't. It doesn't sound like something that a human being does.
By the way, just to add, not to add to the it says ha'ohel, not ohelo. Could also just be ha'ohel. There must be some significance to this ohel as opposed to his tent. It's not his tent. Yain v'nizgal b'sof ha'ohel. Maybe there's something there that there was some. Maybe it is the base midrash or something specific. It's not just his tent. It's not his own personal.
Oh.
Shalom
It's somewhere very, very, very specific.
It could be. I mean, the pasuk says "Veischa b'seich ahaloi" in his tent. That's the pasuk. It spells ahaloi with a hey at the end. The Targumim say the goy mashkene in his dwelling.
Rashi makes a comment on that.
Rashi does make a comment on that.
Rashi says it's spelled with a hey and not a vav. To say oh hello with a vav. I forgot why. It's a rim. It should be oh Allah. Really it's pronounced oh Allah.
Yeah.
Some significance to that.
Rashi says that it's a remnant to the golus of the tzaras of Shvatim that went into golus because of wine.
Oh, okay.
I don't copy exactly where he sees that in the word oholoi, but okay.
Because of the hey.
Why? What shaychus?
You should say oh hello with a vav.
Right.
Why is it a hey? And yet it's pronounced oh hello.
Right.
That's how the art scroll said that it's coming.
So it's dam because it changed. Nothing to do with the fact that it's a hay itself. The hay itself is.
It's spelled. It's a remnant to.
Oh here.
I think. Yeah, something like that.
What? Okay, so
I don't remember.
The next part of the story here, I bought Moshem for the Ilam. The next part of the story is like this. It says in the pasuk, "Vayar Cham avi Canaan Esav v'Saviv." Cham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father. Now, why does it say that he's the father of Canaan? We have to discuss. Vayaged l'shteiacho b'chutz, and he told his two brothers, and his two brothers Shem and Yefes came, and they covered their father. They were walking backwards, and they didn't see their father. And then Noach woke up, and it says, "Vayeda es asher asalei b'nai hakatan," and he knew what his youngest son did to him. B'nai hakatan. The shaila is, what did they do, and who did it? It's a whodunit question, right? So,
How do you know Dr. Canaan did?
so wait, one second.
I wasn't born yet.
One second. Oh, we'll get to that in a moment. I know, and then his reaction is that Noach said, "Orur Canaan eved avodim yeh le'achav." So I guess. First of all, what happened to Noach? So the Medrash says two pshatim. What happened either was that he was castrated, and the reason why Noach would be castrated, everyone agrees that it was either Cham or Canaan that did it. That's the spoiler. We'll get to exactly all the Mefarshim who said what, but everyone agrees it was either Cham or Canaan that castrated Noach. The shaila is, why would they castrate Noach? Because they don't want Noach to give birth to a fourth kid. Either because now the whole world is going to be split into three parts. If there's a fourth kid, it'll be split into fourth parts. So then they're going to be getting less. So they want to get more. So they make sure that there's only 3 kids, not 4 kids. That's one shot.
The Russian says something about something happened up to the Rishon that one killed the other one.
Yeah.
One son killed the other one.
Cain killed Hevel, right? It says Cain killed Hevel. Cain, because they were arguing over who would control the world.
Right.
Okay.
And
so that was the shaila of half the world, and here it's a shaila of getting only a third, which is even less. So their mamish have to make sure, because otherwise they're losing more.
But also it's something to do with Adam
More potential.
not having children, more children.
Right.
And also Noah should have more.
They
children.
realized that Chase was born
But
afterwards. So
Right.
they got, you realized,
so then someone else is gonna take a different portion.
More than 3.
So that would be the reason why to castrate him. The other mahalach in the Medrash is that they sodomized him. Now, why they sodomized him, I don't know why. No one says pshat. That's like a depravity. There's no reason behind doing such a thing. Maybe it could be in the ancient world that you showed your ownership over somebody by doing such things, but even that, it's just. But the point is like this.
But sodomized is not removing a part of the person.
Right.
So it says, as the Prophet says, it's not explicitly that.
So what?
Something was removed.
No, he did something to him. It didn't say he was removed. Vayeda es asher salei b'nei Chatan.
Yeah, maybe Rashi said that. He brings all this chat.
Oh, Rashi brings these two pshatim. If it was, Okay, so who did it? It says that Cham saw. Cham, the father of Canaan, saw Ervas Aviv. Right? So, and then it says at the end, Asher salei b'nei Katan. His youngest son did something to him. So in order to understand what this means, the youngest son, so we'll have to first understand the birth order of the sons of Noach. Then we could try to get into saying, what does it mean, the youngest son? Now, before we get to the Pirkei Eliezer, there's three explanations in the Rishonim exactly how to understand what happened here in the Psukim. The first pshat, the first way is like this. The first thing is like this. The Gemara in Mesachos Sanhedrin, Daf Samach Tesamid Beis, brings the pasuk that Noach had 3 sons, Shem, Cham, and Yefes, or Yefes. So the Gemara says, in what order are we talking about these 3 sons? What's this order, Shem, Cham, and Yefes? The Gemara thought at first that that's their birth order. Shem is the oldest, then Cham, and then Yefes. That's what the Gemara thought at first. And then the Gemara proves at the end that no, that's not the pshat in the pasuk. The pshat in the pasuk is that it's going in order of wisdom. The Torah is listing them off in the order of their wisdom. So Shem is the most wise, then Cham, and then Yefes is the least wise. That's what the Gemara comes out. Then the Gemara brings a pasuk to support this, that when it's talking about the descendants of Shem, so the pasuk says, "U'l'Shem yulad gamhu," Perik Yud pasuk Chaf Aleph, "Avi kol b'nei Ever," the father of all b'nei Ever, Achi Yefes Hagadol, the brother of Yefes Hagadol, Yefes who is the oldest. That's how you read. That's how you read the pasuk according to the Gemara, and also according to the way the Tamim works. It says Achi Yefes Hagadol. That's what the Gemara says. So it comes out that Yefes was the oldest in the Gemara. The Gemara proves that Yefes was the oldest from this pasuk, and the Gemara says that Shem was the youngest. So the birth order was Yefes, Chum, Shem. And that's the Mahalach that Rashi goes with. Rashi in Chumash, Rashi in Gemara, in Sanhedrin, also in Avodah Zarah Daf Tes. That's Rashi's Mahalach going straight with the Gemara. That Shem, Chum, and Yefes is actually their birth order backwards. Really, the birth order was Yefes, Chum, and Shem. Shem was the youngest. Now Rashi explains that who did whatever was done to Noach, who did it? It was Chum. Now Rashi is bothered with a question. If it was Chum that did it, so then why does the pasuk say that Noach knew Eis Asher Sholei B'nai HaKatan, his youngest son? Rashi understood that Chum wasn't the youngest, Chum was the middle kid. Right? Shem was the youngest according to Rashi. So I can say B'nai HaKatan. So Rashi says B'nai HaKatan. Katan in this instance doesn't mean the youngest or the smallest. It means Habazui, the lowest in stature, the most disgraced son. That's what it means. That's how Rashi understands the pasuk. By the way, according to Rashi, that Chum was the one that did it. So why did Canaan get cursed? Chum was the one that did the action. So why Canaan get cursed?
Well, Canaan came from Ham.
Okay, so but Chum had a whole bunch of kids. Uvnei Chum put Mitzrayim, Kushi Mitzrayim put Canaan. He had a bunch of sons. So why Dafka Canaan of all his sons?
Rashi says this is the fourth son.
Oh, so one pshat is Rashi brings down that it's the fourth son. So he was trying to withhold Noach from having a fourth son, so his fourth son got cursed. That's one pshat. Rashi says that actually? Yeah. The other pshat that the Medrash says is a different pshat. That because Hashem gave a special bracha to Noach and his sons, he said Pru Ruvu Milus Oretz, so they got a special bracha. So Vayivorech Elikim es Noach ve'es Banav, and he said to them Pru Ruvu Milus Oretz, they got a special bracha directly from Hashem. So Noach didn't want to curse Chum because Chum was directly blessed from Hashem. So then he's going against what Hashem said. Hashem gave him a blessing, and I'm going to give him a curse. So fine, I'm not going to curse him. I'll curse his son. But we're going to see later on in the parak that even though the words of the curse are that it's going on Canaan, but really he meant the curse to also go on Chum in general. He just didn't say it. Now, interestingly, I found this pshat brought in the Medrash in Bereishis Rabbah. Bereishis Rabbah, parak Lamed Vav, Siman Zayin. Now I found, interestingly, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and one of the scrolls is called Pesher Bereishis, a commentary on Sefer Bereishis. It's known as, it's a really cool name, 4Q252. That's the scroll number, 4Q252, where it says in the scroll, brings the pasuk, Vayikatz Noach miyena vayeda Eis Asher Salei b'nai HaKatan, vayema arur Canaan eved avodim yeh le'achav, brings the pasuk that we just said. Actually, it spells a bunch of words differently, but it's the same pasuk. And it says in the scroll, V'loi kilo es Chum, ki im b'nai, ki berach kel es b'nai Noach. And he didn't curse Chum, rather the son of Chum, because Hashem blessed the sons of Noach. So that's why he didn't curse Chum himself, he cursed the sons of Chum. Fine. That's Rashi's Mahalach. Gishmak, I found it in the...
It's been a while afterwards, after the flood, for Chum to have had 4 kids. Because he didn't have on the ark.
So, I definitely didn't want to get into that machlekes, but it is a machlekes. The Chizkuni in Bereishis Tes Yud Ches brings 2 pshatim. If Noach's grandkids were already born when they were by the Teva, by the Mabul, and the Netziv also in the Hemek Dover, Parak Tes Pasuk Tes, also says that Noach's grandkids were also there in the Teva. But the Pashtas is it was only his kids. We never said anything about his grandkids yet. The Psukim in Parshas Noach don't say anything about grandkids. But there is such a mahalach that they were already born.
The one before the Mabul?
What?
In the ark they couldn't do anything.
The what?
They were born before the Mabul, or maybe
Pashtos, yeah.
Oh,
The
wife
Chizkuni
was
says
pregnant?
that
No.
that Canaan's mother. The Chizkuni says that Canaan's mother became pregnant with him while they were in the Teva, because the Gemara says that Cham was Mishamish in the Teva,
Yeah.
even though he wasn't allowed to. So the Chizkuni says from that Canaan was born.
That's why.
But we don't have to. The truth is we don't have to get into this because it doesn't say anywhere that this story happened right after the Mabul. That's why I sort of like I split it into like this week as opposed to saying over this last week, even though the order in the order of the Medrash this was earlier, but we could split it up because it's not muchach anywhere that this happened right after the Mabul. I used to think that this happened right after the Mabul myself, and then I spoke to some people. They said that like who said it says it right after. So.
It takes a couple of years to make one.
No, but once we're saying that the whole thing was a nace anyways, the whole thing was a nace anyways. But that's Rashi's pshat. Rashi's pshat was that it was Cham that did it, and Cham is called B'nai HaKatan because he's the B'nai HaBazui, and yeah, and Canaan was cursed because Hashem didn't want to curse Cham directly. Fine, that's Rashi's pshat. The Ramban says a different pshat. The Ramban sort of goes halfway with the Gemara and halfway not with the Gemara. The Ramban understands that, like the Gemara, that Yefes was the oldest, but not like the Gemara, that the Gemara says Shem was the youngest. The Ramban says no, Cham was the youngest. And then the psukim work out very well. The Cham was the one that did it. That the Ramban explains that Cham was the one that did it, and therefore it says B'nai HaKatan. It's going on Cham because he was Noach's youngest son. And then why did Canaan get cursed? You said the same thing as Rashi, that the fourth son or the Varta that he didn't want to curse if Hashem directly blessed him. That's the Ramban's pshat. But the Ibn Ezra has a different pshat. The downfall, the downside of the Ramban's pshat is that it goes only halfway with the Gemara. It doesn't go completely with the Gemara. Okay, the Ibn Ezra's pshat, the Ibn Ezra one has a different pshat, and the Radak also brings such a tzad to explain it this way. The Ibn Ezra understands that the birth order was Shem, Cham, and Yefes. That Shem was the oldest, Cham was the next oldest, and Yefes was the youngest. So when the pasuk says the pasuk says Vayar Cham Avi Canaan, Cham saw, right? But Cham, who was not the youngest, according to the Ibn Ezra, Cham was not the youngest. He wasn't the one that did anything to Noach. What happened was the Ibn Ezra is going to add in some like words that we don't see in the pasuk. What happened is that Cham only saw. It says Vayar Cham, and by the way, the word Cham in Aramaic, Chama, means to see. In Targum Onkelos it says Vayar Cham v'chaza Cham, he saw, and in Targum Yonason it says V'chama Cham, Cham saw. So the word Cham is related to the word Chama, which also means to see. Cham saw, but all he did was see. And then he told his brothers about it, and somehow his son, Cham's son Canaan, heard about it, and he's the one that did what happened to Noach. It was Canaan that did it. Now when it says B'nai HaKatan, B'nai HaKatan, his youngest son, it's not talking about Noach's youngest son, but rather Cham who saw Noach, his youngest son. Alright? And then why did Noach curse Canaan? Because he was the one that did it. That's what the Ibn Ezra says. That makes sense. Now the Ramban brings us Ibn Ezra, and the Ramban writes. Second, where's this Ramban? V'hinei Azav Rabbi Avram Darkei B'Pshutei Amikra. Rabbi Avram, the Ibn Ezra, forsook his path of going in the Pashup Pshat and the Pasuk. V'heichel hi novei shkarim, and he began to prophesy his falsehoods. So the Ramban is saying that the Ibn Ezra is a novi sheker because, like Mechi tasted this whole thing, there really was. The Ramban says that the Ibn Ezra is a novi sheker because he's saying this pshat that it was really Canaan that did it in order to fit it into the psukim. That's what the Ramban says. Now,
well, what did he say? Who did he say?
What? The Ramban said that it was Cham that did it.
Cham.
And he said that Cham is the youngest son. which is like halfway like the Gemara, that Yefes was the oldest, but that instead of saying Shem was the youngest, he says the Chum was the youngest. That's what the Ramban was.
What about that you said that he doesn't curse why Hashem gave the prophecy?
No, so that's why Canaan was cursed instead of Chum. Everyone agreed. The pasuk says that Canaan was cursed.
But according to Ramban,
Yeah.
that Ham did it, Canaan was cursed.
Yeah. You say like Rashi that's the fourth son, or because he didn't want to curse. Okay, fine. Now we can see what the Pirkei Eliezer says. Oh, by the way, there is a pshat in Midrashim that say that Noach did have a fourth son. It's brought in Seder Dairis, but we don't want to get into that.
His name though?
You want to know what his name was?
I didn't have to ask you later.
I wrote it down somewhere.
That's curious. It's just curious. Or doesn't you need to tell us?
I have.
Marco, Groucho, Chico, and Zephyr. Something. I forget about it. Right there. Gun also.
The Marx brothers.
Yeah. Why did he have to be exposed for Ham or Canaan to do it?
Why did he have to be exposed for Cham or Canaan to do it?
Yeah, they were going to do it. They could have, undressed themselves and done what they did.
Maybe it gave them an idea. It's right there in front of you. You don't have to. Half the work is done. Maybe, I don't know. I hear the question. I don't know, but maybe that's the answer. Okay, that's what the Medrash says. V'nichnas Canaan. Noach was revealed inside the tent. V'nichnas Canaan. Canaan came. V'ra es ervas avi aviv. That's the girsa you have to say. He saw the nakedness of his father's father, his grandfather. V'kosha chut bivrisai, and he tied a string around his bris milah. B'sersai, and he cut it off. V'yatza v'higid le'aviv. And he went out and he told his father. So Canaan did this and then he told his father about it. This is different from the Ibn Ezra, who says that first Chum saw and told Canaan and Canaan did it. Here we're saying that Canaan saw, did it, and then told his father, and then his father is going to see. But it's more or less the same thing as the Ibn Ezra. Nichnas Chum umatza ervas aviv. Chum came in and he saw that his father's nakedness. V'lo sama libay mitzvahs kibud av. And he didn't put upon his heart the mitzvah of Kibbud Av. It wasn't important to him. Right? So he went out and he told his two brothers who were in the marketplace. What's the marketplace? Who's around already? Okay, it must be that this was already sometime after the Mabul and the world was already beginning to be repopulated. As if he's laughing. A public area.
Public area, like
yeah.
the street.
As making a mockery of his father. Goru boy Echav, his brothers screamed at him. Cham's brothers screamed at him. And they took a covering with them. And they walked backwards to the Chiswas Avihen, and they covered their father. Shinam, it says in the pasuk, Vayikach Shem Vayefes as a simla, and they took the simla, they took a covering, and they covered him. But
don't be. Why can't the Pasha trap be the Yar Kham? There is mamish a big problem with seeing your father naked, and that's why Shem V'Yafes behaved the way they did, and they walked backwards. It says, and they didn't, and they covered him. It just seems. Why didn't the Chachamim or somebody say something like that was the sin?
I
saw him. That was it.
I didn't see anybody that says that. You're right. If you just read the words of the psukim, that's what it sounds like. He saw him, but then it says also loy b'nai katan. Sounds like he did something to him. That's probably why Chazal were
Could be
found
he didn't cover him. He didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything is not the same thing as he did something.
He doing was not covering.
Mr. This is where Chazal saw it, because it says that he did something to him. Fine.
And then what's so significant about the other brothers doing like what he did?
I know.
Go in there and cover it.
So more or less, the Pirkei Eliezer is good the same shot as the Ibn Ezra. That it was first that basically Canaan was the one that did it. Chum saw, whether he saw before or after, that's like a slight difference between the Pirkei Eliezer and the Ibn Ezra. But Chum saw, that's the Meferish pasuk. But Canaan is the one that actually did it, and therefore Canaan is cursed because he's the one that did it. That's Ibn Ezra's pshat, basically. You know, the Ramban said that Ibn Ezra is a Navi Sheker, but the Radal says, why didn't the Ramban realize that it's Beferish Pirkei Eliezer? It's right here. We have it right here in the Medrash. Navi Sheker. It's coming from Chazal also. Okay. It's a pretty stark question on the Ramban, because we know the Ramban had Pirkei Eliezer.
I think the Medrash says this is the reason why he got cursed. Canaan got cursed.
Why? What's the reason?
Because really Chum was supposed to get a cold, but it says before that by Baruch Hashem is Vayah, so you can't put a cold on walking Baruch, but really the Kavanah was on Chum.
Oh, so we already spoke about that, and that works with the Mahalach of Rashi and the Ramban. But Pirkei Eliezer is not going with that Mahalach, because Pirkei Eliezer is saying that Canaan's the one that did it, and then that's why he got cursed. You're right. The Rashi and the Ramban say that Chum was the one that did it. So then the question is, why did Canaan get cursed if Chum's the one that did it? Now, what's interesting is like this. According to Pirkei Eliezer, you have to say that when it says is B'nai HaKatan, his youngest son, it means that Chum, it means that it's going on Canaan. Canaan was the youngest son of Chum. Just like the Ibn Ezra said that B'nai HaKatan is going on Canaan, who was the youngest son of Chum, because Chum was not the youngest son of Noach. How do I know that Pirkei Eliezer holds that Chum was not the youngest son of Noach? I mean, the Ramban says that he was the youngest son of Noach, right? Not like the Gemara that says that Shem was the youngest. So where am I coming from? I'm coming from a Pirkei Eliezer earlier that we learned in Perek Ches when we were discussing Soida Ibur, the Soida of being Ma'aber the Shana. So we said that it went to Shem. And so we said that Shem was a Kohen, like we said in this week's parsha, that Malkitzedek Melech Shalayim Haitzilachem V'Yoyin V'Hu Kohen Kel El Yoyin. And we said Malkitzedek is Shem, which it's not just Chazal that say it. Josephus also says that Malkitzedek is Shem. Agav, Josephus. But that was Agav. But it says that. So we said that Shem was a Kohen, and the Medrash earlier in Perek Ches said, how do you know Shem was a Kohen? So because Shem was the Bechor. So where do you know that Shem was the Bechor from? So I'll tell you where you know, because it says in the pasuk, Noach had 3 sons, Shem, Chum, and Yafes. Now the Gemara said that that's talking about the order of how smart they were, but not going in their birth order. So the Gemara understood that's not the pasuk. But the Gemara had a Havamina, which seems that Pirkei Eliezer is going with that Havamina. The Gemara said that maybe it's their birth order. So yeah, if it's their birth order, Shem is the oldest, Chum is the middle, Yafes is the youngest. So you know that Shem is the oldest, Chum is the middle, Yafes is the youngest. So what's B'nai HaKatan going on? It can't be going on Chum. You can't, Pirkei Eliezer can't learn like the Ramban. Therefore, Pirkei Eliezer had to explain that it was Canaan that did it. I'm sorry, Pirkei Eliezer understood that B'nai HaKatan can't be going on Chum. Right? Because Pirkei Eliezer is Shem, Chum, and Yafes.
According to Rashi makes sense.
According to Rashi, fine, but we're not going with Rashi right now. Buzzer, right. So therefore, it seems that Pirkei Eliezer is l'shitasei. He learned that Shem was the oldest. So if you learn that Shem was the oldest, then Chum wasn't the youngest, because there's no way of saying that Chum was the youngest. There's no source to say it. So that's why Pirkei Eliezer is saying that Canaan was the one that did it. Okay, so what's Noach's reaction to this story? Vayikatz Noach miyena. Noach woke up from his wine. He regained his consciousness. Vayeda. And he knew what his youngest son did to him. And he cursed him. It says in the pasuk, Arur Canaan. Cursed is Canaan. Right? So Pirkei Eliezer is taking that pasuk at face value, that he's cursing Canaan because that was the one that did it.
How do you know that Canaan did it?
What?
How do you know that Canaan did it?
Pirkei Eliezer is saying that if Canaan was the one that was cursed, it would seem that he's the one that did it.
How did
Or how did Noach know that Canaan was the one that did it?
He was chicker.
How did he know?
Canaan did it.
And when bad things happen, around.
Now the truth is, if you look in the Pesukim,
There's so many people around that,
No,
few people.
even without coming on to that, first of all, you could say that someone who saw it or knew realized that it was Canaan that did it. But even without coming on to that, it never says in the pasuk that Noach was sleeping. It seems that he was awake. He just he wasn't really all there. He was only halfway there. Then Noach meyeinoi means when he sobered up, then he realized what happened. He didn't forget what happened. He was there. What happened? There's just there wasn't anything he could do about it because he wasn't thinking properly. But then when he came out from his drunken stupor, so then he realized what happened. He realized on his own.
How did he recover from the surgery? It's a surgery, it's not something. Dude.
I don't know.
If somebody castrates you,
That's
blood.
fine. You're right. It could be that it could be that he was in a hospital for a few weeks afterwards or whatever. Just the pasuk and the medrashim aren't talking about that.
Yeah, there should be that. It has to be that the one running the hospital and the doctors and everything is the same guy. There's only 5 guys around.
No, because we're saying that this happened after the Mabul, so it could be the world was already repopulated.
Og was a doctor.
Og was a doctor also. That's what it means. It's from the Reform. Very good. Og was a doctor, you title.
The right is
You could say that Noach was a Navi, who threw the wood that he did.
It could be, but I'm saying you don't have to come on to that. You could say that he was there. He saw what happened. There wasn't anything he could do about it.
If I say that, it probably talks me off.
What? The Og was a doctor.
well, when you castrate somebody, right?
Yeah.
There are many ways of castrating somebody.
Yeah. So we said how he did it. No, we said how he did it. He took a string and he tied it around his bris, and then he pulled it really hard. I don't know.
I mean, so
That's what they. It's similar.
But then you have to go to the bathroom. You have to be able to urinate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they did.
So
It's just a bebrisoi. I know what they do with animals. They say that it could be it's only a grama. So in cases when serious is drabanan.
Strangle and then it make you. I think it make it unusable if you want to.
What they tie a rubber. They put a rubber band around a certain ivarim, and then that around the testicles, I believe, and then that cuts the blood circulation from coming to it, and then it falls off or something like that, and then it becomes unusable.
that makes sense.
And I seem to remember that is more makil in halacha because you're not allowed to be says you're not allowed to castrate an animal. So I believe that in halacha it comes out that that's a little bit more makil than actually doing it straight out.
Right.
To do it in a way that it's only a grama. I don't remember exactly what the nafkamina was. It was brought in Shulchan Aruch Even HaEzer Siman Hey. Yeah, by animals. It's really talking about humans, but then it also goes into animals.
The simon is about not having relations with animals.
Right. No. That's the siman about a stris, about a human being who is a stris, and then it's also to make a human into a stris, and then it talks about animals as well. Okay. Why did he curse him to be an Eved? So the Radal brings from the Dasakein and Balei Tesis that when the Balei Tesis quote this Pirkei Eliezer, so it adds a little bit extra. Let's see if we can find this fast. Ma Ra'al Akelo here he quotes the Dasakein in Parak Tes Pasuk Chaf Hey. He brings B'Shem Pirkei Eliezer, which we don't have in our Pirkei Eliezer. It says, Ma Ra'al Akelo b'nai be'eved. What did Noach see fitting to curse his son that he should be an Eved? Tichsiv, because it says in the pasuk, Ben Yichabed Av ve'Eved Adonov. It's a pasuk in Malachi. A son honors his father, and a slave honors his master. V'Hachi Pirusha. This is the explanation of the pasuk. Im Ben Yichabed Av Hareza Toiv. If a son honors his father, that's good. V'Im Lav. If the son doesn't honor his father, Yihya Eved La'adonov. Then he'll be a slave to his master. So because he didn't honor his father, he became a slave to a master. That's how the pasuk. That's how the Dasakein brings B'Shem Pirkei Eliezer to understand why Noach cursed Cham curse Canaan, that he should be avodim to his brothers.
You're saying that because on Yom Kippur, on
Im kevonim, im kavodim. Yeah. No, but that also makes sense in a way, because we say if Klal Yisrael are doing what they're supposed to do, so then they're called banim of Hashem. And if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then they're like avodim. So it's the same idea in a way. Yeah. Okay. That's the end of the story. What?
And I did it. How come the other three sons are also of Ham are cursed? They're like looked bad upon.
Because Ham was not completely innocent. Because when let's say the way Pirkei Eliezer says it, that Canaan did it, and then he told his father, right? And then his father came in, saw his father naked, and didn't loy sama li by mitzvahs kibbud av. What did he do? His reaction was to go out to his brothers in the shuk and tell them about it and make fun of their father. So Ham wasn't so innocent himself. Right, he didn't do sirus or mishkav zachar or whatever. He didn't do that, but he wasn't so innocent. He should have covered his father right away, but he didn't. He told his brothers. His brothers covered the father, and that's why he himself is also guilty.
Well, that makes sense. The son not father.
Right. Fine. So that's the end of this story. Now we're going to start Perek Chav Daled. As I mentioned before, in the Higra edition of Pirkei Eliezer, so the first few lines of this parak are actually the end of the previous parak of Perek Chav Gimel. So we're going to attach this to Perek Chav Gimel, and then we'll see as far as we can get. Right, Perek Chav Daled. Berach Noach Uvanav. Berach Noach Uvanav. Hashem blessed Noach and his sons. The Marzu adds in the word over here, b'matan sehem, in their presence, to give them certain presents, gifts. Shneimar, it says in the pasuk, Vayivarech Elikim es Noach v'es banav. That's the real lashon of the pasuk. Hashem blessed Noach and his sons. And here it says the word b'matan sehem, in their gifts, but the Marzu said it earlier. V'hinchilam es kol haaretz, and Hashem bequeathed to them the entire land. Okay, so now we're going to go through the three sons of Noach and explain what they were, what they got exactly. Berach l'Shem u'levanov shchorim v'noim. Hashem blessed Shem and his kids, shchorim v'noim, black and beautiful. Okay, now that was just to confuse it. Be careful. This is being. Well, let's try not to say any racist comments. Okay, but this is it's a delicate medrash over here. What's going on? First of all, Berach l'Shem u'levanov. Rabbi Yomi Israel asked the question, like, he has a different gersa. It says Berach l'Shem u'levanov toivim v'noim, good and beautiful. And he asks, how could Hashem give a bracha that they should be good? Good is not something that you get a bracha for. You're either good or you're bad. You decide on your own. You have bechira, right? And we're going to see that Chum is black. Why? Because Medrash tells us, other Medrashim tell us that Chum became black because since Chum was Mishamish in the Teva, so he got a Einish that he became black. Right? So what's the bracha? On the contrary, it's going to be a klala. It's not a bracha. And then what does this have to do with the lands that that Hashem is bequeathing to them as their inheritance? No, it's the next line. I didn't read it yet. So Rabbi Yomi Israel explains what's happening over here is like a few things. It's saying Berach l'Shem u'levanov, Hashem blessed Shem u'levanov, shahayu shcharim v'noim. Let's read it, or shahayu toivim v'noim. They were shcharim v'noim. But the Medrash is not telling us what the bracha was. It was a certain bracha that Hashem gave them. And then also the Inchilam called Eretz Noishavas, Hashem bequeathed to them a certain place, Eretz Noishavas, and that's going to be the formula for all three.
Remember by Miriam and Aaron when they got that when they spoke Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu, they said, why did he marry them?
Oh, so we'll get to that. Oh. Hashem. Actually, whatever, yeah. But yeah, so that's that pshat. V'hin Chilam it's called Eretz Noishavas. And Hashem bequeathed to them Eretz Noishavas, the very Geshmaka land, which that's the lashon of the pasuk in Parshas Beshalach. It says that they ate man for 40 years in the Ad Bayam El Eretz Noishavas, and over there Eretz Noishavas means Eretz Yisrael. So over here it seems to be saying that that Hashem gave to Shem Eretz Yisrael. That's what Hashem gave to Shem. The Canaan had Eretz Yisrael and Canaan weren't from Shem. So we're going to answer you that Rashi says in Parshas Lech Lecha that Canaan az ba'aretz. The Canaanim were conquering land of Eretz Canaan from the descendants of Shem. Really, Canaan was supposed to go. What's called Eretz Canaan or Eretz Yisrael was supposed to go to Shem, and the Canaanim, who were descendants of Cham, decided they want it, so they started conquering it. And then Hashem gave it back to descendants of Shem when He gave it to Klal Yisrael. But really, the whole time it was supposed to go to Shem. What does it mean that Shem was Shchorim V'noim? The Radal says that this is an allusion to the lashon of the pasuk in Shir Shirim. It says Shchoir Ani V'nova. I'm black and I'm beautiful. You have to know exactly how that answers the question. Chazal tell us all kinds of interesting pshatim. What does it mean? Shchoir Ani V'nova. Like it means like I'm black. More or less, the mahalach is that I'm black, meaning I'm dirty in one inyan, but I'm beautiful in a different inyan. Whether it means that they became, I think of Sadiqa and the Targum over there say, it's like we became dirty by the Cheder Egel, but we became beautiful when we accepted the Seres Dibros. And more or less the Midrashim, wherever we go with different shatim like that we're dirty with, that we don't have proper intentions when we do mitzvahs, but we're beautiful that we actually do the actions of the mitzvahs. There's different explanations to explain a certain dichotomy that we find by Klal Yisrael, that they're guilty on the one hand, but also innocent on the other hand.
Couldn't the word black mean like sagino?
What?
Sagino.
Saginar?
Sagino.
That's what he's trying to say, but I didn't let him say it yet.
Yeah. So why couldn't you say that? I mean,
You could. Maybe. We'll see. L'cham, Berach L'cham Uvanav, Shehem Shcharim Karev. Hashem blessed Cham and his descendants, who they happen to have been black like a raven. Because we know that ravens are black birds. The Radal wants to change the gears from Shcharim Ka'arev to Shcharim Ka'arim. Ka'ar means disgusting. So instead of Shcharim Ka'arev, black like a raven, and so say Shcharim Ka'arim, black and disgusting. That's what the Radal wants to change the gears to that. And he says even if you don't change the gears, Shcharim Ka'arev is lashon of a pasuk in Shir Shim, Shcharim is Ka'arev. But he says he wants to say Shcharim Ka'arim, black and disgusting. He says there's a medrash in Bereishis Rabbah Parsha Mem, which was quoted by Rashi in Parshas Lech Lecha, that says that when they went to Mitzrayim, so he wanted Dafka make sure that they don't try to take Sarah, because the Mitzrayim, Rashi says, are Shcharim V'Ki'arim, black and disgusting, and they're going to see a beautiful woman, and they're going to want her, and therefore he said she should say that she's his sister, so that they won't kill him. Right? That's what Rashi says. Rashi brings this lashon of Shcharim and Ka'arim. One time I had a friend, a good friend of mine. His name was Chester Robinson, and he was originally from Jamaica. He was Megayer. His name was Yosef Robinson. He was actually killed. He was actually murdered a few years back in Flatbush. But this was back when he lived in L.A. Chester Robinson, a good friend of mine from Jamaica. He was a black fellow. He was actually involved in the rap industry, but before he became Jewish, and he became from whatever. He was a very interesting guy. So he once came to me with his Rashi. And he asked me, he said, Rashi is a racist. So why? Because Rashi says that the Mitzrayim were black and ugly. So you see that Rashi saying that black people are ugly. So I said, no. I didn't know what to say because he caught me off guard. But I said, no, that's not true. You have to be medayik in Rashi. Rashi says black and ugly. So you see that you can be black and not ugly, right? That's why he's saying both. So that answer satisfied him for a few minutes, But as you said, Rashi in Parshas Behalaischa, when it says in the pasuk of Fatadaber Miriam b'Moisha aladesa kushis asher lokach ki isha kushis lokach, so Rashi says that isha kushis doesn't mean black, rather like a sarcastic way of saying that she was beautiful. So there Rashi says that kushis means ugly. Just ugly is a nice is a way of saying beautiful without like making a ayin hara. He didn't know that Rashi, but he asked me the Rashi in Lach. He asked me about the Rashi in Balaischa later on. Me and him worked through the sugya. We wrote a whole essay about it. This was many years ago. You go search on Google, search Moses' black wife in quotations, and put the words Reb Chaim, and you'll find an essay that I wrote about this topic. It happens to be, for some reason, it's the most popular essay that I wrote on the internet. But
Yitro, right? He wasn't black, was he?
What?
Midian, the tribe of Midian, they weren't black.
Impossible.
Pashtus not.
B'nai Keturah.
They were white.
Yeah, B'nai Keturah. They're B'nai Avram Avinu. B'nai Keturah.
Look, I'll have to, whatever. It's very complicated. Look, when Moshe Rabbeinu came to Yisrael, right? When Moshe Rabbeinu saved Yisrael's daughters, and they came home early from feeding the sheep, so Yisrael asked his daughters, "What are you doing here?" So they said, "Ish Mitzri hisilonu miyad haroyim." An Egyptian man saved us. So now Rashi said that the Mitzrim are black, right? So they said an Ish Mitzri. So was Moshe Rabbeinu white or black? They thought he was an Egyptian. So how did he look that made it that they thought he was an Egyptian?
1 second, he could be dressed like a...
And then why would it be different from what they were themselves?
Let's see his face and then look at him.
I don't know. What?
Maybe the clothing.
So then why would Rishonim says there was the clothing?
That's
He
what
could have dressed like, clothing and it could have... Where are you from? Egypt.
So some Rishonim say the clothing, some Rishonim say the language. But if he's like a black man, if he's a white man, and we know that the Egyptians are black, right? So then why would you think he's Egyptian? He's wrong color. He's albino? You want to say he's an albino? Okay.
Because he looked like an Egyptian.
He looked like an Egyptian, even though maybe.
He was good in the Egyptian palace.
Look, even though everyone in this room is white, we have, we look different.
Oh.
The tones are different. His tone and his tone, everyone
The shades of white, the different shades of white. You're right.
Black,
So we'll get to the Mefurish Mishnah and Mesachos Nagayim in a few moments, not minutes. Okay, Berach liyefes. Hashem gave a bracha to Yefes. Ubanav kulam levanim shehem kulam levanim v'yafim. Hashem gave a bracha to Yefes and to his descendants, who they're all white and very good-looking. Yefes, they're very beautiful. V'hinchila midbar v'sadais. Oh, sorry, I skipped the sentence. Hashem bequeathed to the descendants of Cham Chayf Hayam, the sea, the area of the sea. So the Radal goes through, let's say, the oldest son of Cham. Let's say this. The oldest son of Canaan, who was the youngest son of Cham, was named Sidon. There's a city Sidon over there in Lebanon. Right? So those are the ancient Lebanese over there. What we call the Phoenicians, the Egyptians. The Phoenicians are, let's say, the Plishtim, which are descendants of Mitzrayim, who are also descendants of Cham. All these people, they lived along the coast, right? Mitzrayim, Gaza, Lebanon, all along the coast of the Mediterranean. Now the question is, what about the rest of the Bnei Cham? But that's what it says there. Hinchilam Chayf Hayam. They got the edge of the sea. The Radal says in parentheses in small letters, he says an interesting thing. He says maybe Hashem, it was a hashkacha pratis that Hashem put the descendants of Cham next to the sea because where they live was usually areas where the sun is very hot, which is why they're black. Which is a shtickle steer to a different understanding, and that's why they live next to the sea, so that can help cool them off a little bit. That's what the Radal wants to say. It's a shtickle chiddush. Right. Then he says the Bnei Yafes, which are kulam levan and v'yavim, which are beautiful and white. V'nchila midbar v'sodes, and Hashem bequeathed to them different deserts and fields, which the Radal says is talking about the northern areas of the world. And he says that basically the ancient inhabitants of Europe and Asia, or at least northern Asia, were Bnei Yafes, the Germanic tribes, etc. Bnei Yafes. So that's what they got. These are the necholis that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave to the sons.
Where Scandinavian use as well, right?
What? Scandinavians, yeah. Now, there's a Mishnah in Mesachos Nagayim. The Mishnah says that there's a certain objective shade of white that's called a tzaras. That is a shade of tzaras. Now, depending on who the person is, that shade of white will sometimes look lighter than his skin and sometimes look darker than his skin. Nagayim Perek Beis Mishnah Aleph. Baheres Aza Niris Bagarmoini Keha. A Baheres Aza, a bright Baheres, will look dim on a Germoini. By the way, in modern Hebrew, the word keha means strong. It means a sharper color. and in Lashon HaKodesh it means a weaker color. But v'hakeha b'kushi azam. But when it's on a kushi, it looks stronger. This, which, because a Germanian, the Mishnah is saying, which we're understanding means a German, let's say, a German is very, very white. So this shade of white, which is a Beheres, is going to look darker. Klape, the rest of the skin of the German, which is even whiter than this. But on a Kushi, it says, this shade of white is going to look very, very bright. It's not going to look dim because the rest of his skin is darker. So this is going to look whiter than it is. But Pashtus, the halacha is that no matter on who it is, it's the same halacha. That's considered tzaras. Rabbi Shmuel Omer b'nei Yisrael ani kaparasan harehen ka'eshkara lo yishcharem v'lo levanim ela beinayim. Because b'nei Yisrael are not like the Germanim and they're not like the Kushim. They're somewhere in the middle. They're not white. They're not black. They're somewhere in the middle. So that's what it means if you want to say that's what it means in the Medrash over here in Pirkei Blazer. It says that the Bnei Shem are shcharim v'noim. What the Radal says that what it means that Bnei Shem are shcharim, it doesn't mean that they're literally black. It just means that they're more black than Yefes, who are mamish white, but they're not as black as what we say black by Chum. That's what the Radal says. Now there's a famous Eliyahu Rabbah from the Vilna Gaon on this Mishnah. The Eliyahu Rabbah says that these three different shades, let's say, of black, white, and like in the middle, represent, Shem, Chum, and Yefes. And we know that Shem, Chum, and Yefes went in three directions in the world. He says that Shem went eastwards, let's say Asia, that way. Chum went southwards, Africa, and Yefes went northwards to Europe. Now, who went westwards? There is no west, because if our point of reference is Eretz Yisrael, it's the west of the sea. There is nothing there. What about the Americas? I don't know. It's an interesting question. What to do with the Americas?
They went northward. So what?
What?
No.
But the Americas, what's his name? Menashe ben Israel famously said that the Americas are the Seres HaShvatim. Others want to say that it's Bnei Keturah. Well, we have to know exactly how the indigenous people of America fit in. And Australia, where the indigenous people of Australia fit in. Was Australia part of Africa at some point? Or Madagascar? I don't know. But this is what the Vilna Gaon says. The Vilna Gaon repeats this pshat in his Pirush Ederes Eliyahu and Divrei Yamim Aleph, Perak Aleph, Pasuk Dalet, the Ederes Eliyahu. But there's a lot of mistakes in that shtickle. So when you try to read it, it's not going to make sense unless you take the Vilna Gaon and the Nevi'im and say that this is what the Vilna Gaon means to say, and then filter through what he's saying in his Pirush and Divrei Yamim based on what he says in the Nevi'im. Otherwise, it's very hard to understand it. Perak Aleph, Divrei Yamim Aleph, Perak Aleph, Pasuk Dalet. Pasuk says that Noach had Shem, Chum, and Yefes. And the Vilna Gaon says a third way of explaining what the pasuk of Shem, Chum, and Yefes is. Right? We said that it's either the birth order or the order of Chachma. The Gaon is saying that a third pshat is that it's going in geographical order, which I understand means that if you're going in Eretz Yisrael and you're facing eastwards, so first you're going to do eastwards. That's what's it called, Shem, and then you go to your right because the right is more chashuv than the left. So then you get Chum because that's south. And then, if you go to your right again, you get west, but we said that there's nothing in the west, so there's nothing to say. And then you go right again, you're going to what's it called? You're going to Europe, which is north. That's what it would seem the Gaon is saying. A third pshat in Shem, Chum, and Yefes. Okay.